What's up, YouTube? Thank you guys for joining me. It's M. Williams, your licensed master stylist. And if you're new to my channel, I'm a hairstylist, but on here, you're going to see me cooking. Actually, you're going to see me baking some chocolate chip cookies. And so you're going to go ahead and put that 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And yeah, I'm a hairstylist, but I'm also a wife. And I love cooking and baking. That's all I used to do when I was a kid. So you're going to preheat this oven to 375 degrees. So yeah, YouTube, they say do 80% of what your niche is, which of course my niche is hair. But then do 20% of things that you want to do. So this is something that you're going to be seeing on my channel along with some other things. But cooking, baking, making smoothies. And so right now, I'm adding 2 1/4 cups of flour. And it's all-purpose flour. All-purpose flour. And so you just saw me put 1 teaspoon of baking soda. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then you're going to simply just mix the flour and the baking soda. And the recipe also, you can add salt, but my husband and I, we really don't eat much salt at all. So I didn't add any salt into there. So then you just sit that to the side, which is the flour and the baking soda. And so in a separate bowl, which I have my mixer here, I'm going to add 2 sticks of salted butter. And that's why I didn't add any additional salt, because we don't eat much salt. And the butter, they recommended that you use salted butter. Now, we love Land of Lakes. My husband and I, we love that butter. So you put 2 sticks of room temperature butter, because if it's not room temperature, it's going to be kind of hard to mix it up. It's going to be a challenge. So if you haven't had time to make it room temperature, just stick it in the microwave a few seconds, and that should suffice. And you guys, one thing about Splenda is, if you're diabetic or if you're pre-diabetic, you can use this Splenda. It's great for diabetics. If you have diabetes or if you're pre-diabetic, you definitely want to watch your sugar and your carb intakes, because carbohydrates, when they break down, they just break down to sugar. And so adding this Splenda makes it very diabetic friendly. This recipe, it calls for brown sugar, but I didn't add any brown sugar to it. I actually keeping it kind of diabetic friendly. And so if you want to keep it diabetic friendly, you're going to use Splenda. I use all Splenda instead of the brown sugar. So it asked for, the recipe required 3/4 of a cup of Splenda and then 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. Well, I just added just only the Splenda. And so now I'm adding that in, and I'm going to mix that up. And excuse me for sticking my hair in the camera. Sorry. So now, you guys, you're just going to blend the butter and the Splenda. And don't forget, you have the dry ingredients sitting over there on the counter out of the way. You're going to add that later. For now, with baking, a lot of times it seems like with the dry ingredients, you add them later, because you want to make sure that when you're adding like the butter and the eggs and stuff, you want it to become creamy and stuff before you add the dry ingredients. So you're going to mix up this very well until it becomes creamy. And so this is my new mixer. I'm loving it. It is so heavy. Heavy. So I know this will last me a while. You guys will be seeing me doing some more baking. cooking and using this. It has several attachments to it as well. My husband and I were currently on vacation out of town, so I didn't bring all of the different attachments, only the one. So now, you guys, I'm going to add the 1 teaspoon of vanilla. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. You're going to add that. You guys, I hope you checking out that it's a fireplace behind me, back there, that little other area right there, that open areas for placing the wood, and then right next to it is actually a fireplace in the kitchen. So now I'm adding the eggs, you guys. These are 2 large eggs that I'm adding. You could add them one at a time and then mix them, add one and then mix it up really well and then add the second one. But I just opted to add them both in at one time. So you're going to add 2 eggs in, however you prefer to do it, one at a time or both at the same time. And then you're just going to mix. Now, as I mentioned, you want to mix everything well because you want to make sure everything is incorporated very well and mixed up well. And so I'm just continuing to mix here. Now I'm going to lift up the blender and I'm gonna expose the ingredients so I can have access to the bowl. And then I'm gonna take a spatula, as you saw me do, and then I'm just gonna mix a bit with the spatula to make sure that all the ingredients are incorporated. We still have not added the dry ingredients, but that's coming up next. So now I'm gradually adding my 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour and my 1 tablespoon of baking soda mix. So that's my flour, my 2 cups and 1/4, 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, and that baking soda. And so I'm just adding it in gradually and mixing it a bit as it incorporates together. I'm adding it a little bit at a time. Because when you add in flour and you start to mix, and it's gonna be like the flour is kind of gonna come out of the bowl a little bit because it's so light and airy. So just add a little bit of the flour, just a little at a time, until you get it all added in there and it's mixed up well. And then, you guys, you want to go ahead and add your last bit of flour in there. You're going to go ahead and add that last bit in there and get that all mixed up as well. Now, you guys, I love nuts. I love nuts. So I'm adding a cup of pecans if you desire. Some people are allergic to nuts, so be careful. And I'm adding some semi-sweet chocolate. Now, if you want to keep this 100% diabetic friendly, you do not have to add the semi-sweet chocolate. It's called semi-sweet because it's not a whole lot of sugar in there. But again, to keep it diabetic friendly or pre-diabetic friendly, you do not have to add the chocolate in there at all. You do not have to add the chocolate chips. You can just add your favorite nut in there. And then as well as with the Splenda, that's what's keeping it totally diabetic friendly. So now your cookie sheet, you want to have that. You want to have it some parchment paper on there, and so you can take an ice cream scooper if you desire. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Some people like their cookies big, some like them thick, some like them gooey inside, some like their cookies to be flat and thin. I like mine like this, but my husband, he likes his cookies to be thin because he feels like if they're scooped up kind of big like this, he feels like the inside is going to be a little bit too gooey for his liking, and he'll think it's like half raw and all of this stuff. So anyway, if you like it, it's just a preference. And then, so if you make them kind of thick like this, like I'm scooping them up, then if you can scoop them up like this and kind of smash them down, or you can keep them full like this. It's a personal preference, but just remember that the cooking time is going to be based on the cookie size that you make and how thick and full you make the cookie. Like I made this batch for me, and then I made, because you see I had a lot of more dough left, and so then I made some for my husband that were flatter and thinner and more crispy. He liked the crispy, crunchy cookies. So it's a personal preference, but you just want to make sure that however you scoop them up and however you make them, that be cognizant of the cooking time for that. Because though these are thicker, so I baked these for like 375 for about 11 minutes. You guys, here is the finished cookie. It is yummy and delicious. Yummy, yummy.